1 says, write the balanced equation for the reaction of lead-2 nitrate with sodium iodide to form lead-2 iodide and sodium nitrate. The formula for lead-2 nitrate is PbNO3(2), and we add that to sodium iodide, and that is going to make lead-2 iodide and sodium nitrate. And of course we have to balance this equation. We see that we have 2 nitrates here, meaning I have to have 2 over here. This gives me 2 sodiums on the right, therefore I have to have 2 sodiums on the left. This gives me 2 iodines on the left, 2 iodines on the right, and my leads are already balanced. So number 1, we have our balanced equation. Number 2 says refer to the balanced equation in number 1. If I start with 25 grams of lead-2 nitrate and 15 grams of sodium iodide, how many grams of sodium nitrate can be formed? Remember, you will have to determine which reactant is the limiting reactant and which reactant is the excess reactant. So to do this, I know that I have 25 grams of lead-2 nitrate. And I also know that I have 15 grams of sodium iodide. So my initial equation, if I have grams of lead-2 nitrate here, I know that I have to have grams of lead-2 nitrate here. And I'm looking for the mass of sodium nitrate. So I'll need grams of sodium nitrate on the top, which will give me grams of sodium nitrate here. Okay, numbers that I'm going to plug in here. I know that I have to find the mass of sodium nitrate, but I see that I have 2 sodium nitrates. So I will use the periodic table to find the mass of sodium nitrate for a total of 2 sodiums, 2 nitrogens, and 6 oxygens. When you add that mass up, you get 170 grams. Also, I will have to calculate the mass of 1 mole of lead-2 nitrate. When you add those things up, you get 331 grams, or 331.22 grams. If you plug this number into your calculator, you will find out that with 25 grams of lead-2 nitrate, you will produce 12.8 grams of the sodium nitrate, NaNO3. That's half the problem. Now I need to know how many grams of sodium nitrate this 15 grams of sodium iodide will produce. I'm going to set up my equation just like I did the other one. If I have grams of sodium iodide here, I have to have grams of sodium iodide here. I am looking for grams of sodium nitrate, which will give me grams of sodium nitrate. The numbers that I plug in here, I'll stick with 170. I've already added up the mass of 2 moles of sodium nitrate. The mass of 2 moles of sodium iodide will be 299.78 grams. If you type that number into your calculator, you will produce 8.5 grams of sodium nitrate. Now overall, the question was asking how many grams of sodium nitrate I would produce, and I told you that we would have to determine our limiting reactant versus our excess reactant. I know that sodium iodide is my limiting reactant because it produces the least amount of sodium nitrate, and I know that this is my excess reactant because it produces the most amount of sodium nitrate, meaning when I mix this with this, I can only possibly get this many grams of sodium nitrate. So the answer for number 2 is 8.5 grams of sodium nitrate. Number 3 asks me to identify what my limiting reactant is. And again, we decided that our limiting reactant is sodium iodide because it produces the least amount of sodium nitrate. Let me switch markers because that one's dead. Alright, so number 4 says, how much of the excess reactant from number 2 is left over from the reaction? We determined that sodium iodide was our limiting and that lead-2 nitrate was our excess. And so we need to know how much of this was left over. Initially I had 25 grams of it. I won't use all 25 grams. I've got to figure out how much of it I'm actually going to use and how much I have left. So to set that up, I start with the 15 grams of sodium iodide that was from our initial problem because I know I will use all of those. And I'm going to set up my conversion factor. If I have grams of sodium iodide here, I have grams of sodium iodide here. I am looking for how many grams of lead-2 nitrate I'm going to use. So I have grams of lead-2 nitrate which will give me, of course, grams of lead-2 nitrate. I've already calculated these numbers. You can pull those numbers from number 2. I know that 2 moles of sodium iodide weigh 299.78 grams, and I know that 1 mole, see I have 1 mole of lead-2 nitrate, I know from number 2 that it weighs 331.22 grams. If you plug that into your calculator, 15 times this in parentheses, it will give you, let's see, 16.6 grams of the lead-2 nitrate. That means I used 16.6 grams, but I initially had 25. Of those 25, I only used 16.6. And overall, I'm looking for how many grams I had left or how much was excess. So you take 25 minus that 16.6 that I used, and number 4, it means that I will have 8.4 grams of lead-2 nitrate left over. Meaning I did not use that much of this amount right here.